All right. Good morning, everyone. We will be starting the ArcGIS webinar now. Today, as you can see here, we are presenting on ArcGIS Hub. Today, we'll be taking you kind of on a deep dive and hopefully a little bit more technical of a guide on ArcGIS Hub that previous resources have kind of gone into. So we are going to go ahead and get started. So just a quick introduction. So my name is Jess. I am a GIS solution engineer for the technical solutions teams at Eagle Technology, based in Wellington. And I have here today Fran as well. She is also a GIS solution engineer. We are both part of a team that does technical solutions demonstrations. So we come up with location-based solutions and demonstrate the ArcGIS tool sets and kind of match them to particular problems. So today's topics, we're going to be kind of walking through what is Hub briefly, just as an introduction for those of us here today that may not be as familiar with this software in particular. And then we're going to break down basically the two different versions of this. We have Hub Basic, how to get started, what's new, how to maintain this tool, and then we will move on into Hub Premium, which has a little bit of added functionalities, and hopefully it will highlight some of the differences between these. And at the end, just like all our other webinars, we'll have a little bit of resources for you and a live Q&A. So just a reminder that there is a Q&A button, and you should be able to find this question panel, and it will appear on your right-hand side. Feel free to ask questions at any time throughout the webinar, and we'll do our best to read through them and publish them and make sure that we answer as many as we can. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Fran to get on started on what is Hub.
Sweet. Thank you, Jess. Yes, let's just get started. Starting with why Hub was built. So the mission for ArcGIS Hub is all about the belief that communities are better when working together. So everything within Hub, all of the tools and the capabilities aim to enable you to connect, engage, and collaborate with your communities. So whatever goals and initiatives that you're working on, you can engage and mobilize your stakeholders and community members so that you can all work together to achieve those shared goals. So ArcGIS Hub is a cloud-based engagement and collaboration platform that helps you as an organization to work more effectively with your community. And when we use the term community, we mean it very broadly in Hub. So anyone outside of your core organization or your core team that you want to collaborate with, or those who are affected by your decisions, or who want to work more closely with you, they all fall under that umbrella of community. So for example, if you're running a project in a specific suburb, the residents of that suburb are affected by the project. So you want to make sure that they're informed at all stages and maybe even participate and contribute data or ideas. So when we say community, it could be those residents, or it could be government leaders, it could be universities, and so on. So basically anyone outside of your core team that you want to share content and data with, that you want to collaborate with, and then you want to engage and onboard on your projects, you can use ArcGIS Hub for that. But why do you want to collaborate and engage with them? And that is to make sure that everyone is informed and everyone is on board. So you all have that shared vision and goals that you're working on together. And that way you can align all of your resources and all your efforts to make sure that you achieve your goals and have a successful project. So why ArcGIS Hub? So first and foremost, ArcGIS Hub can be an open data platform. So it's built on top of ArcGIS Online. It's a natural extension to your existing ArcGIS ecosystem. So if you have access to ArcGIS Online, you already have access to ArcGIS Hub Basic. ArcGIS Hub supports data federation, which improves data quality and accessibility. And that way it supports informed decision making. So ArcGIS Hub can also be an information platform for you to inform and educate your stakeholders. And it can be that one-stop shop for all the data and all the information that is relevant to them. And you can track and share progress towards these shared goals. It enables community engagement, so you can start engaging with your stakeholders at all levels, whether that is internal, so maybe different teams within your organization, or external, so members of the public. And you can start gathering their feedback and input and really start to understand your community needs. And the last point is all about collaboration. Hub enables teams, which can help you establish sustained communication, and that way start working with your communities and co-design together for these shared goals and visions. So now looking at ArcGIS Hub and all the different pieces of it more specifically, they can be broadly summarized in these two categories. You have information and education, and engagement and collaboration. So ArcGIS Hub is a great tool for organizing and sharing all types of data, all types of applications and information in the form of sites. And since it's built on top of ArcGIS Online, having some understanding of data management and groups in ArcGIS Online is really helpful if you want to start creating sites. So to talk a little bit more about this, I'll pass back to Jess.
Thank you, Fran. Right. So talking about Hub Basic. So this is what Fran mentioned is the tool that comes with ArcGIS Online. So if you have an ArcGIS Online account, you likely have access to Hub Basic. So breaking down what Hub Basic is, it's how we organize and share information in the form of sites. So it's very similar, or at least it has a lot of commonality with website builders. The key part here, though, is this open data concept. That is a really important thing when it comes to Hub. And so when we get started, we have two options essentially. We can create a site from scratch. So this is completely designing your own web page. As we can see here, a lot of times this would require a little bit of pre-planning and drawing out what you want your website to look like. Or below, we have access to Esri's gallery of templates that are prepared, and you can usually take these and modify them as you want. But regardless of which way you choose, there's the same building blocks that are a part of every single Hub site. Starting with that whole design element. So that's designing your brand and organization, and that's using themes, it's using the actual layout. And we have a building block called rows specifically, and that's really important. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail later. And then we move on to the whole ArcGIS sort of component, and that we have the ability to add and embed interactive maps directly into our website really, really easily. And then we have content catalogs. So there's three different ways that we do this, but content catalogs means how are we sharing our items? So this means our dashboards, our data, just like I mentioned before, open data, any of our applications that we've created at all in ArcGIS Online. This is how we organize it, and we're able to create Hub as a sharing sort of platform. And then there is the ability to just embed. So that means not just ArcGIS apps, but anything external. If you need videos, anything with an iframe, you're able to plug this in to your Hub. And that includes also Survey 123 forms. That's a very common workflow that we see so that you can start collecting community engagement in these sort of public-facing sites. And the component that ties all these together, the whole sort of core concept behind Hub is the ability to control how you share and collaborate. So starting with that first building block, setting a theme. So Hub will allow you to set your own theme, choose your custom colors, make sure the font is how you want it. This can be the organizational theme that you get from your ArcGIS Online organization. But you really get to customize this to make sure your hub site looks the way you want. And the actual management of content. And this is going back to what I mentioned before of content catalogs. So a really important thing to remember is that hub content is ArcGIS Online content. How we access or edit different components in ArcGIS Hub is the same exact concept of groups. So when you set your group access, that means that you're setting your content access settings. So that's just an important thing to remember is hub catalogs, the content in them is the exact same as the content in a group. And when you create a hub basic, you automatically create two groups. You create your content group, and this is basically where you can control, maybe it's public facing, maybe it's just organizational, but this is where you just put things that you want your users to view. Then you have your core team group, and this is where something in your hub that you maybe want a little level higher. So this is somebody who can edit. This is somebody who can manage items in the hub a little bit more. And so this comes to be really important when it comes to actually designing the hub. So we have this building block called the row card. And so a row is exactly what it sounds like when you're making a website and you just create a long horizontal row. And you add images. This is how you can organize information. But these are blocks of organization. And with this, that means that we actually can limit visibility to specific groups. So again, this is where that group management comes into play. With every row, there is the option to select visibility. So that means you can customize each page of your site so that certain content blocks, these rows, can be visible to who you choose, depending on what the access level is. And then again, just embedding apps directly within Hub. We even have the capability to directly embed links or PDFs. There's unlimited amount of content that you can directly plug into your ArcGIS Hub. So to give you a real brief run through of what it would look like to basically get started with just a Hub basic site. I'm going to go ahead and switch gears and show you what Hub looks like. So this is the overview page. And as you can see here, I am using ArcGIS Hub Basic. And this is where I can manage any of the sites that I'm creating, as well as my content. If I wanted to create a new site, it's pretty straightforward. I would be able to give it a name, create a site from scratch, as I mentioned before, or I can browse templates. And so here we have all these different options that can be shared within an organization. You can make your own templates if you have an organizational standard, or you can use any of them that are shared across the world or Esri provided. In this case, let's say that I chose this awesome citizen problem reporter. So this is for a very common workflow in council, and that maybe you want to receive public feedback and have a site that the public can go to hear about improvements in a city. So let's say I've created this. I've created this citizen problem reporter. I clicked activate template and I name it something. What happens next? If I go to my ArcGIS Online, and I'm just in a page that's hopefully really familiar for everyone who uses ArcGIS Online, I'm in my groups page. And from here, I actually have two groups that were created from this. I have my core team and I have my Wellington content. So if I were to go to just the content team and take a look at what's inside. So this is where I shared all my maps and data that I want the public to be able to see. So I have a reporter application here. I have some maps that I want them to be able to see. So that's great. I've organized this. This is not an editing group. It's just a viewing group. If I were to go back and instead I look at that core team, and here I've added some different apps. I've added some ones that I only want my managers to be able to see. For instance, I have this application here for them to manage all those requests that are coming in. But I want you to notice one thing is that within these groups, I actually have the hub site itself, which means everybody has editing privileges in this group can actually edit the hub itself. But I also have a page. So this is a page that is only visible to people that are inside this group. And so I will reference that again in a moment, but let's take a look at the actual hub site now. So this is one, we're skipping ahead and saying that I've started editing this. I've named it what I want. I've started to add some text here, and we're going to start using some building blocks. So if I go to my layout here, I have all these building blocks that I can just pull in and drag, starting with, of course, that road that I mentioned. So if I go up here, it's the number one thing that I can pull it in, and I'm going to put one right there. Now I have an empty row. I can modify that if I want to, but I can drag and embed a map directly into the site. Now, embeds are different than group content. So when I embed something, it's not a part of the actual ArcGIS Online group. This is just something that's there. Hold on one second. So if I, that means I have actual access to anything in ArcGIS Online. So here I know the item of a publicly accessible council map that was for the public toilets in Wellington. So if I select that, all of a sudden I've embedded a map. That's a publicly accessible map in my publicly accessible page. But like I showed earlier, I actually created another page, and that page was only visible to that core team group. So if I return to my layout, go to customize, I can see here the number of pages that I have. So right now I'm on the site home. This is just the main home page for the site. I created another page that you would only be able to see if you were logged in as the correct user type that belongs to this group. And in here, I actually want to add some different building blocks. So in my layout, I can directly embed an application here. I'm going to select an application, and I'm going to say my problem manager. So I'll add that one. And that app will directly be embedded in here, and I can manage that from here. It doesn't have to be an application. It can just be a map as well. Let's say that I actually have a couple of different apps. Like say here, I previously embedded a dashboard so that my managers can keep track of all the reports coming in. But another really important building block is one of these content catalogs. So this is a gallery. If I were to pull it into here, as we can see here, it's going to allow me to organize and show access to all my apps. Here, it says currently that I only have one app in my catalog. That's a Citizen Problem Reporter. The reason it's telling me that is because it's based off of groups. Right here, it's just based on that public group. So if I select my group and I go back to that core team, because only my core team should be able to see this, now I can see there's actually two apps because these are all the apps that were shared within that group. And this just allows me to organize them a little bit better. And these links will take me directly to those applications. So returning back to our slides here, I just want to emphasize one last time about those content catalogs is that there's different strategies. And you've definitely actually seen these probably before. One of the ones is the search and category cards. They usually have kind of round icons like this with a search bar. And this is actually the formatting that you'll see most open data sites in New Zealand. Almost all regional councils use this to share their data. And so with these, gallery card is one strategy to do it. That's what I just showed, where you can just create nice centered cards that lead directly in there, or you can also do search view. And so this is another way to showcase and allows your users to navigate not just the apps, but the data, the documents, and be able to see an overview map of as well as where all these apps are located. And so just a final emphasis on what's new in BASIC. So basic change hub changes of quite a lot. One of the new things that is here right now is a workspace. So this is actually just a preview version. If you are logging into your Hub Basic, you will see an option to use this. And this is just a new way to sort of organize our content and our sites a little bit better, but it's completely optional at the moment. We actually are able to just go to our settings, and if you want to see the preview, then you can just enable it. And so, in summary, Hub Basic is basically your one-way communication tool to engage the community. But what if you want the community to engage back with you? And so, in that case, we need a two-way communication tool. And so, that is where Hub Premium comes in. That'll be back to you, Fran.
Thanks, Jess. Yeah, so now we'll show we'll go from a one-way communication with Hub Basic to a two-way collaboration with Premium. So with Hub Premium, we've really emphasized the need to get your community involved. So going from just you and your organization, working to inform the public, to maybe involving some of members of the public or volunteers, or maybe people that work alongside you but are not part of your organization. So they can go from being anonymous users to users with an identity. And by identity, we simply mean an ArcGIS Online account, so they can start actively engaging with your projects and with the different tools. So Hub's premium offering has these additional engagement tools, so you can start actively engaging with your community. So that's added on top of the basic capabilities of site creation and data sharing. With Premium, we're able to onboard external people through these added capabilities. So some of the engagement tools include item-based discussions, where all the content that is displayed on your site can be commented on if you allow it to be. You're able to create map-based idea boards where users can drop a pin or draw a polygon and write down comments. And then other users can then react to those posts or reply to existing threads. You can create projects, which makes standing up a page for a specific goal really easy, because projects have an inbuilt timeline where you can outline the different stages of your projects and their timeframes. You can also feature content in the projects page. You have events, so you can organize events and display them on your site for people to click attend and follow for updates and more information. And there's a few other tools, but how do you control who gets access to it and who interacts? So in ArcGIS Hub, members of the public are able to create an account directly from your hub, and this is what we call community accounts. So you can create one using your email address or your social logins like Facebook, GitHub, or iCloud. And by creating an account, they can start joining teams, which allows them to start contributing content and maybe access restricted content, like Jess showed earlier. They can sign up to attend events, they can follow different sites, and even create content directly from Hub. And all of this is possible because when you get Hub Premium, a new organization is stood up, and that is your community organization. So the community org is specifically designed to manage your community accounts for people you want to share content with, but do not want to provide full access to your employee organization. So you don't need to worry about external people being able to access the data and the space that you work in and that your organization works in, because they're held in a completely different space. That being said, the hub site itself and the community organization is administered in your employee organization. So they are separate, but they are connected. And going back to when you create a site, in terms of backend groups and content management, when you create a site in Hub Premium, these three groups are created in ArcGIS Online. So just like Jess said, in Hub Basic, when you create a site, you get a content group where you will add all the data that you want it to be discoverable when searching in your site. You get a core team group, which enables group members to edit the site and manage it. But you get an additional group, which is your followers group. This is where external users who click the follow button on your site get added. So when you enable following, anyone who clicks on that button will be added and part of your followers list. But if there's maybe a subset of people that you want to involve a little bit more closely with, maybe on one specific project, or maybe a group of volunteers that need access to private apps and more information around tasks that they need to do, then supporting teams are a great tool for this because it allows for more focused sharing and management of users and content. So with Teams, you can create a space for external people to upload content and see what others have shared with them. And you can feature them on your sites with the groups card. And that way it makes accessing the team workspace very easy. Additionally, with Teams, it allows for discussions because discussions are contained within Teams. Discussions also have moderation tools, so you can block specific words from being posted, and you can restrict who is allowed to engage with them. Discussions are also geographically aware, and they support web maps and web scenes. So now we'll jump to a quick demo to see some of these tools in action. Sweet. So now we're looking at the same site that just showed earlier, but with the premium version. So as you can see here, these are your building blocks, and we have some additional cards that are not available in basic, like your groups card or your follow card and sign up. I scroll down on my page, I see the map that just added, and I see this row here, which has the sign up card, which invites members of the community to then create an account and join your initiative. So now I'll go back to customize and I'll look at the different pages. So I have one more additional page, which is related to our Citizens Involved initiative. So I'll click on that page to see what's in it. As you can see here, there's a welcome message. We have the groups card, which display the groups that you're a part of. So in this case, part of this initiatives team, as well as the followers team. We also have an upcoming events card, which is also one of these cards that are available with premium. We're featuring our projects using the gallery card. And we've found these projects, clicking on my content and selecting the projects and initiatives associated to the site. And we've added an idea board. But now I'll just let that load and I'll look at the site once it's published. So this is what, when you're signing into that site and you have access to this specific initiative as a volunteer, for example, this is what you'd see. So I can see again the groups I'm a part of, and using the group card, clicking on it, I'm just launched to my team workspace. So this is where I can see who else is in my team, the content that they've shared, and I can start contributing content myself. Going back to that page, I'll see the upcoming events and projects. So let's say I'm interested in this one community garden project. And this is where that project item, you can see the inbuilt project steps. So we've added the steps with the timelines and specific details for all the steps in this project. There's some resources linked to it, and as you can see, featured content that is relevant to this project. And we've even linked an event. So from my project, I can directly be launched to an event. And this way you can see how all these different tools can be used together or in isolation. So one last thing I will show is your idea board. We'll just let it load for a second. And as you can see, you have your nice idea board, and you can select extent. So you can restrict the location and where people can put their pins and draw their polygons. So I can simply just drop a pin and add it to my post and post that way. Or I can interact with existing posts. I'm able to react. I can add people. And all of these posts are contained within groups. So as you can see, it's held within the Citizens Involved initiative. So that was a few of the tools that you can use in Hub Premium. So what's new in Hub Premium? Like we've said, the Hub team have new releases every week. And just recently, they've redefined initiatives. So initiatives used to be linked to a site. So every time you created a site, it created an initiative. But now initiatives are standalone items in ArcGIS Online. So they have their own easy to set up view, and they can help align Hub projects that share long-term goals. So one initiative, for example, in that demo was to engage members of the public in different volunteering projects. So with the new initiatives, we can now associate those projects to one initiative and really track progress on a larger scope. There's been some enhancements to discussion boards. So discussion boards have been out for a few months, but they've recently enhanced support of web maps and web scenes as a backdrop for when people want to submit their ideas and drop their points and draw on the maps. So to wrap it all up, just as a summary, with Hub Basic, you can create sites and create open data portals. With Hub Premium, you can start involving external people so they can follow your sites and attend events and see projects and more, and you get your community organization. And lastly, just thought we would mention enterprise sites, which have the same functionality as ArcGIS Hub Basic, but in an enterprise environment. Now I will pass back to Jess.
Sweet. So we mentioned before, basically, that you've likely seen Hub before. You've seen the Hub basic sites. You may have even seen Hub Premium. And unfortunately, can't show you local examples or use cases of Hub Premium because from what Fran would have showed you, that Hub Premium, a lot of these functionalities are internal. They're meant for organizations to communicate with each other. Yes, so you might be able to find some sites with a community sign up button. If they have that sign up button, you can be guaranteed they have Hub Premium. But most of the time, you wouldn't be able to see that unless the organization has decided that it's public. So when we talk about local examples, we just wanted to emphasize some of what me and Fran shown is already existing. So if I were to go to this site, for instance, hopefully this is familiar to a lot of you guys. So regional council, Greater Wellington have done a great job. A lot of regional councils have done something very similar to this. So this is in those open data portals that we talked about. And this is one of the ways that we can organize our content gallery, or sorry, our content categories. And so in here, the open data sites are exactly that. They're meant to share this data. It's meant to make this data open so that anyone can use them. And so by using this hub site, they used search and in view for data sharing. And if we were to click on one of their categories that they've set up here, we can see something that looks like this. And hopefully this looks familiar because this is exactly what I showed you before, and that we have our search in view. So this allows us to directly search any of our data sets. And this gives us a little bit of an overview map. And again, this is an out of the box functionality. That's just a drag and drop and configuration. There's no coding behind this. And from here, each one of these data sets, for instance, or maps or applications, we have all these filters to be able to start navigating through this. If I were to click on a data set, then again, Hub gives you the ability to configure all the different ways that this person can, me, for instance, use this data. It centers on this map, and from here I have the different ways that I want to use this using the I want to use this button. And from here, they've configured it so that we can create a map directly from it into our ArcGIS Online. Again, here, open it directly in ArcGIS Online, or we can actually just grab the service itself. So that's just an example of a really great use of Hub that's really, really common. As we can see here, they've added some more information into their site. They have a menu that you can add that allows you to access, again, that same data. But there's also different sites that have used different types of functionality. If we go to see how Bay of Plenty did it, for instance, this is where we brought in more of those embeds and those links. So they clearly used a lot of images that were to pull into each of these rows. As you can see here, the different colors, they made different rows for each of their section of information. Then up here, if we go to their maps, they've created another page and they have gallery cards. So again, these are pre-configured. They would have had a group with this data that's sitting in here, and they would have pulled in a gallery card and auto-populated these different applications. And then they can customize how it looks. As you can see here, we have another gallery card. They have all this organization that they've done and they've customized to make sure it really fit with what they were trying to do. And again, they still have that open data. So they had several different sort of content catalog strategies that they've used here. So that was just a real brief example. We just wanted to show you that this is a tool that's being used. It's being used quite popularly in New Zealand. And so if you want to get started, we do have some resources for you. So we have lots of different resources in regards to where we can find training for Hub. There's a user lab that allows you, again, it's like a tutorial to be able to use Hub and get started. there is a Hub Gallery. So if you were to search ArcGIS Hub Gallery, you'd be able to see plenty of examples just like I showed you. There's an actual newsletter and there's a change log. So Hub it changes quite often. It has tiny changes um, consistently happening just to try to make that usability improve almost weekly. And so keeping up to date with those change logs as if you're creating a hub, just to make sure that as you create something, if something functionality has changed or something breaks, there's a real easy way to just to check to see what went wrong. So we try to make that as intuitive, as easy to keep your hub up to date as possible. And besides that, we just have our general resources that because it's ArcGIS and we have the same sort of places that hopefully you guys are familiar with. We have ArcGIS blogs, including blogs that almost just within the last couple of weeks came out about Hub and a lot of what Fran mentioned with like the redefining initiatives and some of the terminology changes. You can read about that and explain exactly what their reasoning was and why they chose to do it that way. Documentation. So every one of those building blocks that we showed, we have documentation of how to use them, what their functions are, and just to make sure that's working for you. And then finally, ArcGIS developers, that's always a great place to understand some of the behind the scenes. It's also recommended that you check out ArcGIS developers because we didn't show it here, but there's HTML capabilities for Hub so that you can really get in the weeds of custom formatting your Hub so that you can make it as customized and designed as any website builder. So upcoming training, we do have a couple of courses coming up. So we do have ArcGIS Online Essential Workflows um, and Creating Stories with ArcGIS. So these are two instructor-led courses that do go over quite a lot of things that we've shown today in regards to content and group sharing and editing and that kind of access. That's all related to Hub. So it's always a really good idea to keep up to date with that. And then there is a learning plan from Esri Academy. That's the ArcGIS Hub Fundamentals. And so with this is going to allow you to follow multiple tutorials with the individual parts that you want to learn about Hub. And then finally, we do have more webinars coming up, and we hope that you join us for those. The next one up in the series is going to be ArcGIS and Emergency Management. Then we have implementing more of ArcGIS system. And then finally, on August 15th, ArcGIS Online Managing Content. I strongly recommend attending that one if you were interested in what we showed you here today, because again, it's all directly related to Hub. So at this stage, we'll move on to the Q&A portion. And so if you have any questions about any of the content that me and Fran showed you today, please drop that in the chat and we will start to slowly see if we can address those questions that you leave there. So one question that we have had before um, when it comes to Hub, especially when it comes to that whole federation thing, um, data catalogs in ArcGIS Hub, if you want to reuse existing ones or not host the data yourself, and there are feeds that you can directly federate, and that includes DCAP, that includes OGC API, and RSS for those different feeds. Uh, right. So one of these questions about the price of Hub Premium. So this is going to be something that completely depends on your organization. It's just like any other extension that you would attach onto your organization. It's going to be also licensing. So it's going to be a matter of how many users that you have accessing Hub Premium. There is almost like packages that come with Hub Premium, and Franny can correct me on this, but when you like start a Hub Premium, you get so many community accounts. But again, it still relies on getting a quote from an account manager. So if you have an ArcGIS Online organization, I strongly recommend asking them what it would be for your organization because it's going to be specific to that.
Yeah, that is true because when you get your community organization, it may come with maybe 100 community accounts, but that is fully customizable as well as the credits that are associated to each user so they can start creating content. So yeah, it really depends. Um, there's a question, can I ask if there's any version management slash control within Hub? So we went over the control and management in ArcGIS Online just so you can really get an understanding of how that works. But it actually, the Hub team, it really recommends doing all of this within Hub. So yeah, all of the management, creating teams and linking data to the site itself. You can do it within Hub and even changing page names, obviously because they're items in ArcGIS Online, you can do it in ArcGIS Online. But like I said, they recommend you do it all in Hub.
Also, just a comment on that when it comes to, in case the question was regard more in like version management as similar to like versioning with editing data, like in ArcGIS Pro, or like versioning when there's multiple people making updates. Um, so with that, there's a couple different things to keep in mind. Um, in that updates can be approved. There is a little bit of version management. It's not going to be the same level as like enterprise version management, but there will be some ability um, to edit track, basically, similar with you do at ArcGIS Online. ArcGIS Online has the ability to track editing. So Hub Premium does have a little bit of that functionality of seeing who made changes and make sure you are accepting them. And that's just a configuration to make sure that you have that ability. For using credits, Fran, do you want to detail about the credit usage with Hub Premium at least?
Um, in terms of community accounts, when you get users, they get credits assigned to them, so they're able to create content, but they're not required. You can limit this. All of this is customizable. So if you don't want them to create content, they won't be needing to use any credits. And same with the hub site itself. Having a hub site doesn't consume credits, but obviously if you're creating content and hosting it yourself, um, it works the same as an ArcGIS Online that will use credits, but linking it to your hub site will not use credits.
Right. So it's just that ArcGIS Online storage, basically. Or if for some reason you created a community member that could do analysis and then they were using analysis tools, that would use up credits. So it's you're in control basically then of who is using credits if you even want to give them credits to create content. That's up to you. Well, it looks like there's currently no questions at the moment. I think so. It looks like we've gone through them. So for the moment, me and Fran will hang out. We'll turn off our cameras and mics. And so if you're typing a very, very long question, or currently trying to think of a question, we'll give you a bit of time. But just drop it in the chat. And if there's any more questions that appear, me and Fran will jump back on, and make sure to answer them. Um, but if not, then I hope you guys enjoyed our presentation, and we look forward to seeing you again at our next webinars. Thank you. Recording of the webinar, just as notes to you, Mark, that usually happens within the week. So we'll just do a bit of editing to make sure that there's no just make sure there's no extra content that is unnecessarily published. But it'll by the end of the week there will be a recording. Thanks.